Hi, my name is Lisa Smith, and I'm going to talk to you about 5 tips on how you can teach your baby infant sign language. Now, before I get into the tips, I think it's pretty important that I talk about what infant sign language is, why you would even want to do it, and the best age to start for your baby. Very simply, infant sign language is teaching your baby simple signs like eat, more, all done, so that they can communicate with you before they can talk. Now, why would you want to do this? What you're doing is you're giving your babies tools to communicate with you before they have the words to do so. This enables you as a parent or caregiver to meet the needs of your baby easier and with less frustration from both baby and parents. And the best age to start, from experience, I've seen that babies typically start signing between the ages of 11 months and 13 months. So anywhere in there is a great time to start. All right, let's get right to those tips. Tip number 1, you're going to want to choose 6 to 8 signs to teach your baby. Now, in my experience, parents really want to teach mealtime signs. Eat, more, all done, drink. And these are great signs and they're really useful. Unfortunately, they're not really exciting for babies. And so sometimes they take a really long time to do these signs. And so I encourage parents to also teach 3 or 4 additional signs of things that are important to your baby. Does your baby have a favorite blanket? Teach them the sign blanket. Do you have a pet cat? Teach them the sign cat. Maybe you want to be able to greet dad when he comes home from work. Teach them the sign dad. When you teach these signs, they're more exciting to your baby and they are more likely to want to communicate them back to you. And so they're likely to start signing sooner. Now, when my first daughter was 14 months old, we were walking through a park and in the distance was a man playing with his dog and a ball. Now, Laura, she pointed and got really excited. Now, because all babies love animals, of course I said, "That's right, that's a dog." Well, she looked at me like, "No," and did her sign for ball. And so I was able to talk about the soccer ball that the man was playing with. And it was at that moment that I realized as parents, we don't always guess right. And so signs can be really valuable to understand what your baby's really interested in and to talk about those items so that they're more likely to listen and learn about them. All right, tip 2, you are going to want to look for opportunities to teach those signs. Now, mealtime signs are really easy because we eat 3 times a day. And so you can say before you go for lunch, "Oh, it's time to eat. It's lunchtime." Put your child in their high chair. And then you say, "All right, let's get you something to eat." You put food in front of them and you say, "All right, you can eat now." And while they're eating, you can ask them, "Do you need a drink?" You can also ask them, "Do you want more or are you all done?" And so these signs can be really easy to incorporate. But the great thing is, other signs are easy to find lots of opportunities to teach as well. Because with books, with magazines, with flyers, with toy stores, with the library, there is a multitude of opportunities of finding pictures and items of those things you want to teach your baby signs for. So really keep your eye out. What's really cool is when babies start looking for opportunities to show you the signs that they've learned. When my second daughter, Melissa, was about 13 months old, she was in a toy store with her dad. And Wayne was pushing her in the cart, and she looked at him and signed moon. And for Wayne, it was the moment, okay, now I got to find the moon. And he looked all over this vast toy shelf, and sure enough, there on the bottom shelf in the corner was a teddy bear holding a moon. So Wayne was able to grab that teddy bear and show it to her and have a conversation with her really about this moon. And it was so neat because not once did she have to point and grunt. And that was a really cool experience for him. All right, tip number 3, you want to make sure that you do the sign and the word together. Because we are working with hearing babies, it is critical that you always say the word with the sign, because the goal of using infant sign language is for these babies to learn how to talk. And so every time you do the sign, you must use and say the word at the same time. Now, what's really cool is when your baby does start to talk, but you don't always know what they're saying, signs can come in really useful. When my third daughter, Natasha, was about 17 months old, we had been in town all day and I was getting her into her car seat. It was lunchtime, she was ready for a nap and she was cranky and she was trying to tell me something. And I tried so hard to understand what she was saying. I thought of every item or combination of words that she might want, and I couldn't get it right. She got more and more frustrated, she started crying, and then she started screaming. Finally, I got frustrated. I just closed the door and climbed into the driver's seat. But thankfully, I paused and I thought, okay, one more try. I turned around and I said, Natasha, I don't understand. Can you please show me a sign? Immediately, she showed me the sign for music. And I said, you want music? To which she instantly stopped crying and said yes. I was able to put music in. She was happy and we had a peaceful drive home. I tell you, I was so grateful that I had taught her the sign for music at that moment so that she could tell me what she needed when I couldn't understand the words. All right, let's talk about tip 4, and that is knowing the stages that your baby is going to go through when they're learning signs. And this is so important because if you don't know the stages of learning, you might get frustrated. So when you first start teaching your baby signs, you're just going to do it for them. You'll say, look, there's a cat. And your baby's going to look at you like, oh, what are you doing? But then something magical happens and you start to see in their eyes that they understand what you are doing. And when you say, look, there's a cat, they brighten up. And the next stage is you say, look, there's a cat, sign cat. So you're asking them to do the sign and they do it back. So they're starting to imitate, and that's really exciting. And then the next stage is that they do the sign spontaneously on their own and they're telling you, there's the cat. They may do any type of approximation, and anything they do, it's really important you support them and say, that's right, that's a cat, good job. I find that parents often get frustrated when the only time their baby signs is when they ask them to. So often I would get a phone call from parents and they would express frustration over this exact thing. And I would tell them, don't worry, you're doing everything right. Just wait a little bit longer. And it never failed. About a week later, they would call back and say, you're right. They are signing on their own and be so excited. And you know what? It gets even better when the baby starts doing 2 or 3 signs to tell a story. When my daughter Natasha was about 12 months old, she threw up in bed. And so when I went in there, she was dirty with her clothes and her bedding and her hair. And so I went in, I said, Natasha, you're dirty. You must have gotten dirty while you were sleeping. Let's go have a bath and get cleaned up. And so that's what we did. We went and got her cleaned up. The really cool part was about 45 minutes later, while we were eating breakfast. She was eating her cereal. She put her spoon down and looked at me and signed bath. And I said, that's right, Natasha, you did have a bath this morning. And then she signed dirty. And I said, that's right, because you got dirty. And then she signed sleep. And I said, that's right, you got dirty while you were sleeping. And then she went right back to eating, just beaming that she was able to communicate and have a two-way conversation with me. And that was really exciting for me because in that situation, without infant sign language, there was no way that I would have known what she was thinking about at that moment. And that was pretty cool. All right, tip number 5, have fun. This is the most important thing. Infant sign language is not meant to be work. It is meant to be fun. Make sure you smile and you're energetic and you're enthusiastic. And as you're having fun with your baby, they're going to want to have fun too. And they're going to want to learn those signs and they're going to want to do those signs back to you. And you know what? When you're having fun, they also get creative with the signs. Sometimes when they don't have a sign for something that they want to talk about, they get creative in how they communicate it to you. My 4th daughter, Olivia, when she was just 13 months old, she came up to me and she signed eat. And so naturally I put her in her high chair and I said, Olivia, what would you like to eat? And she signed ball eat. And I was flabbergasted because I knew instantly that she wanted grapes to eat. I had never taught her a sign for grapes, but she got creative and she knew they were round like a ball. And so she signed ball eat. And that was pretty cool. All right, so those are my 5 tips on how to successfully teach your baby infant sign language. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I encourage any comments and questions.